This is your old pal Hondo doing another review and on a antique fishing rod and show you how to take it apart. The rod that we are going to take apart is along the old from 1959 to like 1969 to the early 70s is when they made the junior series of fishing reels. It was basically a whole entire rod and reel combo in one. They also made the 66, the 89, and the 101 in this very same design and this type of model. Basically, it was the early forerunner of the Snoopy rods from the 80s and late 70s. It's built on the basic frame of the 7.7 and the early junior series of reels from 1959 through the 60s. They didn't discontinue this type of model until like the late, like 72 to 73. They stopped making them this way. Then they started going towards making the Snoopy rods, the Kellogg rods, and the Disney type of rods for kids. Basically, this was an ultralight kids fishing rod. The 66 and the 101 were a little bit bigger. They were more medium action type of rods for catching bigger fish like bass and stuff like that. But the rod and reel combo we're going to show you today is the 77, and I'll show you how to take it apart and put it back together for servicing it if you have one of these type of rods and reels. Okay, folks, this is the 77, as you can see right here. It says 77 Zebco. This was the ultralight version of the whole rod. As you can see, is an entire rod and reel set. You can't take a reel off to maintenance the reel. You have to basically take the whole frame off to get to the frame of the reel to clean. It's very much like a 202 in a lot of ways, like a 404. It has a little wood handle right here, and it has this little coating over it. Some of them were white and had white writing on it. This one is green and has the little Zebco writing on it with the this plastic coating over it. It has this weird little trigger that'll come in handy later on in the video where I'll show you how to take it apart. It had this like olive green type of coloration on the plastic, which will date this to the late 60s, 69. They think they made them into the 70s too. I'm not too sure, but this was the junior series of reels. Like I said, they made the 66, the 89, and the 101. The bigger numerals were for bigger fish. This was actually the ultralight version. Standard line capacity to this one was 2-pound test, 100 yards, 4-pound test, 99 yards, and 8-pound test for like around 80 to 85 yards of line. To get the optimal performance out of this reel, I'd say it would be good if you want to use it as some kind of like, you know, hokey fishing reel. If you're wanting to use this, stick to panfish, smallmouth bass, and trout fishing. Anything bigger than that, you'll have a hard time reeling it in. As you see, this is not a period correct handle. This is something I had laying around. It did have a 202 handle from the early 80s on it, so I switched it to a 1960s 202 handle I had laying around on a broken reel. The reel was, when I found it, was great. It was in good shape. Just need a little bit of cleaning. I'll show you how to take it apart. First, you want to take it right here and basically pull down and pop off the trigger mechanism. And right here there's a little clip here that holds the reel together, which you'll need a small screwdriver to lift it up just a little bit. You just want to lift it up a little bit to get it to come off. And basically that takes the whole reel apart with the rod. And the rod's like a 4-foot rod. It's nothing special. It's made out of fiberglass. Then at this point you can take off the top of the reel like that for cleaning. And you don't have to really clean this if it's really dirty. Now this is where you want to clean it. You want to oil it and all this stuff here. This is the drag knob. A lot of the drag knobs on these old 7.7s and 202s will be dry rotted. This one was in fairly good condition. And you cannot remove these or replace these on the count. They don't make them anymore. Now at this point, you could take the top of the spinner cone off with either a small wrench like this, like a size not 8.5 wrench. You hold on to the spinner cone and wrench it off like so. Take that off like that. Pull off the spinner head, which is just a standard spinner head, just like a 202. You might want to put a little drop of oil in that and clean it out with a rag. Now, one thing about this reel that I do not understand, and nor have I figured out a way to take off the spool of this reel. I tried, just trying to pull it out, and it just will not come out for some reason. I don't know if there's a pin. Maybe you could like twist it off. I'm not too sure if there's a way to like twist it off, but there seems to be like a pin in here somewhere that you could possibly take out, but I couldn't figure it out for the life of me to pull it out to relube the bottom of the reel, but it seems to be free, so I'm not going to worry about cleaning that. That's not really the most important thing you need to clean on this reel. Also, you take the handle off by holding it like this and wrenching the nut off of the handle. The 50, like a 202 from the 60s or the early 70s. Now, the way you want to take this off, this is the anti-reverse switch right here. It has a little sleeve that goes over the top of the anti-reverse switch, like right there. And this little pinion gear will come out, but it goes right into this little hole underneath the sleeve. Now, you can just pull this gear out, and after you do that, you pull out the wheel gear, this is a helix gear system. And those are basically the two things you want to clean. And you spray this with some kind of like reel cleaner or WD-40 in a small bowl with a toothbrush, and some Q-tips. You want to take a Q-tip and stick it through this hole here to clean out the old grease in the middle of the hole where the pinion gear goes. Spray it all down with WD-40. Take a toothbrush to the frame and the body, just on the bottom. If you can't get the spool out, don't worry about it. It should be okay. And once you clean that out, and you clean the gears here in a bowl with some WD-40 and a toothbrush. If it's really bad to the point where you can't get it off, you use a metal, like a brass brush like this one here to get the clotted grease off. And once you do that, you take your grease. You can take pretty much any bearing lube, open it up, and lightly coat these gears right here in the front of the wheel gear and right here on the pinion gear all the way to the shaft. Don't worry about the spring, and just coat it lightly right here and on the shaft here with that grease as well. And you can put like a little drop of oil on it too, just to to get it nice and oiled and greasy, so it goes through this little hole here really smooth. Pretty much that's all you really need to do. And maybe put like if this is really stuck on there, you can put a little bit of oil behind this, like this, behind the knob, and let it go underneath the knob and work that knob back into shape. Now, this one had numbers on it, from the lightest sensitivity to the heaviest set of the drag. It'll tell you how hard the drag is and how light the drag is on the bottom end. Now, to put it all back together, right here in the front of the reel, you'll have to push this little hole over this hole right here from this bottom piece of the anti-reverse and put your wheel gear in first. Now, maybe you should move this out of the way first. Put your wheel gear in first after you lube it, and put in your pinion gear. Basically, you're going to have to try to get this back on here. You don't want to put too much grease on these reels. Just put a little bit. You put too much on there, it's overkill, and it's just way too much grease. You put the pinion gear back in the middle of the pinion gear hole and push it through this small hole in the anti-reverse sleeve. Push the anti-reverse sleeve back over. What this does is it keeps the pinion gear from falling out and also helps break the reel, like so. Once you do that, test the reel to see if it breaks, and if it does, you have the pinion gear replaced in it properly. Now that that's done, you could oil this little piece right here on the spinner cone. A little oil always helps this out so it doesn't get stuck or there's any friction in there or anything like that. And you can wipe out any excess dirt in there if there's any dirt trapped in there, and just wipe it out. Once you do that and it's clean, you could stick the small little piece back on here. Sometimes you gotta, it takes some work to do. This is actually a little bit harder than a 202. Right here in the grooves, that's your pinion gear. That's your pickup pins right here, the grooves. They didn't have pickup pins in these cheaper reels. You just push this up until you find it falls down on the pinion gear itself like that. You put the nut that has this little flathead screwdriver head on it and twist it back on like so. And you could either use the wrench, the size 8 wrench, or you could use a flathead screwdriver to tighten it up. Either one will work, but I like using the wrench. Just sometimes these little flathead screwdrivers get they get stripped, basically. I'm trying to say. Put the handle back on here like so, and put the nut on the handle, and like that. Once you put the nut on the handle, it should be good to go. Just tighten that handle up a bit, and you won't tighten it too much. You'll strip that gear. You know, try it out, see if it works. Yeah, it works good. I mean, it's not going to be as quality as maybe a 202. It's going to be a little bit of a crunchy reel. So, but that's basic how you put it back together and take it apart. To put it back in the sleeve, you just, you know, take the whole reel, stick it. If it just falls right in, it's so simple to do. You stick it in there like that. You grab the body of the reel and press it on like that. This little clip will go on top like that, and push the body of the reel down, and this should go right in that little sleeve right on the back of the reel to push it together, and voila, that's how you take apart and clean, disassemble and clean a Junior series reel from Zebco from the 60s, from the 50s. This will work for the reels that they made from 59 to all the way to 1969 to the early 70s. If you have a reel like this that's an 89 or a 66 or a 101 or another model that's very similar to this, it will take apart virtually the same way and put back together. And the way I showed you how to clean it with a toothbrush and some reel cleaner is the way you clean it. If it's worse than that, you can take some kerosene to the gears and scrub it with a toothbrush or a metal brass brush. Will get those gunked off. It will take the gunked off old grease real easy. Well, folks, this has been on another service video on, and some, you know, a review and history of the Junior series of Zebcos from the 60s and late 70s, early 70s, late 60s, I'm sorry, through the 50s. They made these reels forever, and they're a good little reel. I mean, this one here in particular, I'd use it only for ultralight fishing with 4-pound test or 6, for smallmouth bass, bluegills, crappie, maybe a few largemouth bass with ultralight type of lures like inline spinners, spoons, bait, whatever you want to use it for. Okay, folks, this has been another review, vintage reel review and disassembly and put back together again on the Zebco 7.7, or just in general the Junior series of reels from 59 to through the 60s and early 70s. If you like this video, please hit the like, share, and subscribe on this video. And y'all know what you can do. You put God first. He puts you first every time. And you know what else, YouTube? God loves you. So does Hondo. Peace out, YouTube.
Tell me pretty lies. Look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.